Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Make More Money webinar, The Data Behind Profitable Live Events. I'm thrilled to be joined by Jason Williams of the Castle Theater and Rachel Hunt of the Grog Shop. My name's Jonathan. I lead ops at Opendate, and we'll be teeing up our experts for today's conversation. Before we jump into that, few housekeeping items. The recording will be made available to everybody who's registered. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, drop those in the chat. We'll either answer them as they come up in conversation, or we'll be sure to save some time at the end of the chat for those. Before I allow the guests to introduce themselves, all of today's content and details and data that we'll be digging into are in the live entertainment benchmark report that we at OpenDate just released earlier this month. So we're going to share a sneak peek of the data. We're going to talk about some of the behind the scenes that Rachel and Jason are seeing in their venues, talk about how that's impacting their businesses. But if you want the full in-depth data, you can get it there from that QR code, and we'll have that link to you again at the end of the presentation. Why don't I stop rambling? Jason and Rachel, I'd love for you to each introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, your venue, and let me know a show you're looking forward to. Rachel, you want to lead the way?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here for this conversation today. I am coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio at the Grog Shop. We are a 400 capacity indie venue that's been around for the last 34 years. Here, not in the same space, but a little bit further down the road from where we originated at. We also control the downstairs, a bar downstairs from us as well, called B-Side Lounge, and we're about 200 capacity down there too. As I was looking at the different benchmarks that were coming in through the Open Date study to give you like a little bit of a more of an idea about us. We're usually doing about 28 shows per month. So every night that we can be open, we'll be open with the exception of like maybe a random Monday or Tuesday. We downstairs at B-Side are, I think, have about that many shows as well, probably averaging about like 25 shows a month. We are closed Mondays down there, but have a lot of awesome like weeklies, as well as a lot of like DJ events. That's where we kind of put more of our DJ nights at. And we have most of our business that we're doing down at B-Side is going to be like more door deals and things of that nature, versus lots of touring bands coming to Grog. I'm sure you see us on plenty of calendars for things coming through. Think my next show that I'm really looking forward to is not till April 1st, but on April Fool's Day, we've got a great show with a band called Gollum. They are from Columbus, Ohio, so they are not super far away, but they are on ground control and they are making some big moves recently. They're going to be on a lot of festivals this summer and just really excited to see them. I've been listening to their new album a lot.
Love that. We have to check them out. Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself, your venue.
Hey everyone. Jason Williams, talent buyer at the Castle Theater, Bloomington, Illinois. We're an 800 cap venue, now into our 16th year in operation. It's an old silent movie house that's now become a great Central Illinois destination for live music. Yeah, been involved in shows here since pretty early on, and we've had the pleasure of hosting some great acts that are now massive. So it's been kind of fun watching these bands grow. Um, as far as a show I'm looking forward to, we landed a show with Mammoth, Wolfgang Van Halen in early April. That's already sold out, and really excited to have that show coming in.
Love that. Thank you both for joining us. I'm excited to learn from each of you. So, today we're going to be guiding you through a conversation, four main topics. So, booking, ticketing, marketing, and fan spin. So, we're going to hit some data on all four of those topics, and we're going to start on booking. So, a sneak peek of some of the data from our report there. Here's a quick booking benchmark that stood out to our team as we were pulling the data. So, Throughout the report, we divided the data between the average venue across 200 plus venues that we looked at and the top 20% of the top performers. So you'll see that language throughout, and we'll reference it throughout. Going into it, we expected the people just charging more, the bigger venues were going to be the most successful. And that ended up not being the case. And one of the numbers that stood out to us on the booking front was this number of offers being sent. So it sounds pretty straightforward that some of the top performing venues are sending more offers. That makes sense. What was surprising was that the acceptance rate of the venues sending more offers was nearly identical, 41% from the venues sending less offers. So to break that down, what that means is the people who are sending more offers aren't necessarily hearing no more. They're just having a fuller calendar because the acceptance rate is about the same. Jason, I know you handle booking at the castle. I'm kind of curious your thoughts here as you're thinking about booking shows. How much of that is reacting to what you know is coming through market? How much that's focused on volume, or are you more focused on kind of that quality and acceptance rate? How do you go about booking for your venue?
Definitely a little bit of both. We try to watch obviously the trends. We're in a really cool capacity spot where we can get some bigger name acts that are maybe playing bigger rooms in bigger markets. We'll get a lot of acts that are playing rooms as big as like the Sylvie, 2,000 cap rooms and that sort of thing come and play our venue, just a little bit smaller market. And then we can still scale down and do kind of the up and comers. So we're kind of watching trends a lot, with streaming. We're still looking at charts. We're looking at socials. It kind of depends on the genre of where we can get that information from. Myself and our owner Rory kind of handle all the booking. He helps with a lot of the research stuff on genres that he knows better than I do, and vice versa. So we have a pretty good system with that. I'm pretty well in tune with kind of more of the active rock and that sort of thing. Some of the country stuff that we do. And Rory's got a great ear and great pulse on the Americana front and a lot of the indie rock stuff. So, um, but it's we get a lot of, since we've been open for a while, we obviously do get hit up by the agents directly when they're routing tours, but we do identify a lot of acts that we want to get into the room. Luckily, since we've been around for a while, we can kind of look at, shows that have performed well, and it helps us like, okay, we need to get them back. It's been 2 or 3 years or that sort of thing. So it's definitely a good mix of us getting avails from agents and us sending out, a lot of mutually agreeable offers. But yeah, I mean, as far as the numbers that we're seeing in that report, it's basic sales mentality, right? The more leads you generate, the more sales you're going to get, and that's kind of what we're doing on the booking front.
You mentioned they're both kind of it being a system, but then you also say things like, having a great ear for a specific genre. It sounds like it's part art, part science. How do you balance knowing like trusting your gut and like, hey, this band sounds great versus maybe trusting the social data and saying they have a big following? How do you balance between those two?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think we trust our gut sometimes, and we maybe swing for the fence on a show we think's really going to do well, and like any venue, sometimes that doesn't happen, but I mean, we are very firm believers that the quality's got to be there. We don't want to just throw anything out there, and sometimes these bands are you're seeing growth in their tour history, and people are starting to connect with the music on album 2, album 3, album 4, that sort of thing, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it's time to give this one a shot, and let's go for it a little bit. So we do have to put the personal taste aside. Sometimes there's certainly bands that we want to have in here just because we like them, but maybe not going to sell the tickets. But and then there's bands that we know are going to sell out that we don't like the music at all, but you still got to sell tickets, right? So
It's part of the
so
job
yeah, it's
description, yeah.
it is absolutely so. Um, so yeah, it's finding that balance, and I think it just comes with experience. But it does make it more fun when we just get to listen to music all day, right? That's pretty fun.
Yeah. Rachel, I know your role maybe isn't specifically booking, but you did mention Grog Shop kind of has a system that you like to follow. I'm curious about that system as well as kind of the balance in booking between two rooms.
Yeah, for sure. That was really sweet of you to call it the art of booking. I feel like it's gambling is really what we're all doing on an everyday basis. It's just advanced gambling. But
Just trying to soften it here, Rachel.
yeah, I know. I do have expertise. Yeah, I think, we've talked a little bit about like the aggressiveness of sending offers versus like more systemization and like really prioritizing things that are going to do well for your room. So I feel like we try, we send as many offers as we can. And obviously when we're doing 300 plus shows a year, we're sending quite a few offers. So I do feel like we are on the aggressive offer side of things, but we really are definitely trying not to send too many offers out there, right? And really prioritize the things that we know are going to do well for our room, which for us is like hip hop. Is always a slam dunk. We usually have a lot of history with metal bands, harder rock bands. Underplays, we are like really lucky and privileged to do a lot of underplays. So it is definitely like we might get a lot of holds, but we're really like sometimes needing to hold out a little bit for those challenges so that we can like lock in something that we know is going to do the best in our room. But I would also say too, making how Jason's saying as well, like just making those good gambles based on how if people have social media presence out there, if they're putting out a new album, like trying to get as much information from people as possible going into things so that you know how supported you're going to be on your show. I think the offers that we don't get, the ones people might say no to, like maybe maybe it wasn't meant for us, right? Like if somebody else offered more, think they could do it better than us in their room, might be the show for them. But we have great relationships with the agents that we do work with. We're willing to take chances on some shows that might be up and comers so that maybe they'll come back around to us later on with some stuff that we know we really, really want and can come to a good agreement with them. We talk a lot about, what the kind of bonuses are for certain groups, especially at a club our size, because we're only 400 capacity. There's kind of a ceiling for what we can pay people. So I think that, still offering 100% of merch, pretty like low costs, as far as expenses go, keeps us pretty competitive with our offers. So I think we like to look at it a little bit more that way when sending things, what we can give to them now and then what they kind of come back with us to later on down the road when hopefully they do get big.
Well, that Rachel, you mentioned the offer itself and kind of maybe some of the components of that. I'm curious for both of you, like what resources are you using to gauge whether or not the offer you're sending is like a good offer or not? Like I know some of that is a gamble, as you mentioned, Jason, but what resources are out there that you're using to inform your offer? I see Jason, the
I was
international I'm
I,
looking
I
for the
was
mute
muted.
button sign.
I mean, we look at tour histories a lot, to guess, what size rooms they played on the last tour. Um, do some investigation on social media. Okay, I figured out what size rooms they're playing. Did any of them sell out, or that sort of thing? We still look at Polestar numbers as well. When it looks like there's a lot of, a fair amount of reports that it might be somewhat accurate. Um, Chat with other talent buyers, that may have had them on a previous tour, a lot of that kind of stuff. But so it's educated gambling, I guess.
Yeah.
It's more like poker versus slot machines. Um, yeah, you try to gather you gather as much information as you possibly can, right?
Yeah.
We
Great.
also, even go to looking at just like how many people are our followers on social media. I've got like 35,000 people on Instagram. How many of our followers are currently following some of these groups? Because, you can only get so much information sometimes from Spotify or from Facebook as far as or I will say Meta, as far as like where people's followers are coming from. I also think too, having like an honest conversation with agents you trust about, they will tell you what ticket prices they're looking for. They could also give you a little bit of an idea of like what kind of offer they're looking for. And I know we'll get a little bit more into ticket prices later, but I think setting the right ticket price is helping us a lot too when we're sending the offers.
For
Rachel, you
sure.
mentioned getting up and coming bands. Josh from the chat, appreciate the question. He said, "How does a relatively unknown band become known to you if it doesn't come from an agent?" Can you talk about your discovery process a little bit?
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I have a college radio show here in Cleveland.
Hmm.
So I just am listening to a lot of music. And obviously, like Jason's saying, there's some people that are more that are more niche to me, like things that I like that I'll go after. And not everyone might like them, but it's a cool show for us to get. We get some scene points, you know what I mean? So I think it's honestly a lot of listening and also seeing what is like trending on Spotify, what's trending on social media. A lot of those things I look at. Like there are a few artists that Gollum included. There's this band Frog that I like love right now. We reached out to them because I saw they had an album called Grog out, and I was like, this is too silly not to do something with them at our club. There's an artist called Thought Squad who was just like blew up on Instagram. I was like, we've got to get her in here. So a lot of times I'm like looking around at, you know what I mean, what's trending online to reach out to for some of like the dates that we haven't necessarily filled yet, but could work for those artists.
Very cool. It looks like we have another Frog fan in the
Yeah.
chat, so
Woo!
we'll have to check them out. Cool.
Um,
Well, let's go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, and you can see I'm seeing Glenn's comment here about can you see how many followers follow on Instagram? If you are signed in as your page on Instagram and you kind of go to the other band's page, it'll kind of tell you at the top like how many of your followers are also following that artist. Sometimes it's not significant, like 3 or 60 or whatever, but I we look at that sometimes to know to get a little bit of a better idea.
Cool. Very cool. Practical. I
That
love
does help.
that. All right, let's jump in to ticketing here. So there's all sorts of ticketing data in the report. Um, we're going to talk about add-on or ancillary revenue here, but the reason we're talking about this specific statistic is that you would again expect the top performing venues would have much more expensive tickets. That was not the case. Looking across again, the average venue or the top performing venues, the average difference in ticket price was only 81 cents. So ticket price was not accounting for the success or outcomes that these venues were having. The trend, and we've broken this down a few different ways in the full report, is an add-on revenue. So this is the raw average monthly add-on revenue from a top performing venue versus an average venue, about 4x. We also have this broken down by percentage of total ticket price in the report as well. But no matter how you kind of slice that add-on statistic, this is one of the main areas where the top performing venues are really breaking out from the rest of the pack. And obviously, I don't want to address all the doom and gloom that is happening in the market. We hope this report is an opportunity to be a little more optimistic. But in a softer market, this is an opportunity for all venues to really raise the floor for their venue. So. Jason, I know the Castle Theater is has over the last year or two, maybe you can share the exact details there, but has really leaned in to add on revenue. Would you share a little bit about what you're doing and why it's working?
Yeah. I mean, we have a small amount of bar stools basically that we kind of work with, and it was kind of a free for all prior to us doing the add-ons as far as, people just getting here early to try to rush and grab a stool and not really knowing if the upstairs was open, if those stools were available, or if they needed to reserve, they were calling, and we were just trying to figure out some kind of unorganized system. Um, and then, once we started using the add-on feature with Opendate, it really made things a lot easier for the ticket buyer because they can know what's going on. They know where they're sitting. They know they have a seat, that sort of thing. Obviously, there's a revenue, component with it too for the venue. Um, so I mean, overall, it's just been great for not just us that as the people operating the venue, but it's been great for the folks coming to the shows too. We've heard tremendous feedback from it.
It's awesome. Rachel, I'm curious, a smaller room at the Grog shop, are you guys leveraging add-ons at all?
Much smaller. So yeah, unfortunately, we don't have like access to our own parking lot. We do rent and we have a finite number of bar stools, which we like to keep kind of available for ADA, options if people need them. But I will say the one event that we do some add-ons with, and I think that works really well, and this just kind of gets bundled into like our VIP options for this, but we do have an alternative drag show that happens every month. And we've done some good add-ons where like as part of the different VIP options, they'll get, obviously a photo with the cast, which
Hmm.
is set up with the producer of that show specifically. They facilitate that. There's some like freebies that they give out, but then also there is a drink built into that ticket price. So as part of getting a seat at that event, because it's kind of we're like selling tables. So either a VIP table of two, a VIP table of four, a VIP table of six, or a VIP table of eight. Yeah, you're not only getting the photo with that, but you're also getting the seat and the drink. And sometimes people don't use the drink, but because it's all included in that price, we're at least getting a little bit of extra revenue back to us from that add-on with those tickets specifically. And then, we have sold some tables or some like group rates for things that like have that type of audience. We've got like a St. Patrick's Day show coming up with the Narrowbacks, kind of, pub rock band. We're selling tables for that, and we'll probably sell some drinks, uh, batched in with that. But that's as much pretty much of the add-ons that we've done, though it does work really well on Glamgore, and we usually sell out of all of those VIP options. So I do think it adds an extra level of like exclusivity to it as well that, people love to see.
Rachel, are you selling those once the customer's in the venue, or is that part of your ticketing checkout flow?
It's like part of the ticketing checkout flow.
Very cool. And Jason, that was in response to the question, is this being sold at the venue level or on the ticket page as an upsell? You want to talk about how you do that at the castle?
Yeah, it's at the venue level, so it's after after you purchase your general admission ticket, and then the add-ons come after that. Um, so it's pretty seamless, pretty easy. We do some automation stuff too with emails. So folks that buy a general admission ticket, they'll get an email if there's bar stools available, like a week out from the show. They'll get an email letting them know that those are still available if they're looking for that option.
Don't ruin all of our punchlines, Jason. We're going to talk all things automation here very soon.
It's just a little preview. That's it.
Just a little preview, a tease. He's a pro, folks. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to give another tease here. This isn't built into the slides, but another interesting data point from the ticketing section of this was the average organizer fee, which I think sometimes feels like, kept intentionally behind the curtain. We saw the average organizer fee was 6.6% across the venues we evaluated, but that ranged from 0 to 24%. I'm curious for both of you, are you guys keeping a flat organizer fee? Or are you experimenting with that at all? And kind of how have you determined what that is for your venue?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure how we decided on it, but I think it's kind of built into our ticketing that, what our fee is, but it comes up as like a flat fee. It is tiered, right? So for, tickets between I think like 8 and $15, it's maybe a $2 flat fee, and then it goes up to $3, 3.50, but it's a number that I think most people can like understand. So it is built in. It does go up as the ticket price increases, but it's not like a percent, like a straight off percent. It's kind of tiered. Um, I think that shows where we might not make the guarantee on it, the organizer fee keeps us good. And we work a lot with other venues, like the Beachland Ballroom. I see them in the room. Shout out, Jeff. Um, but when we also are presenting, we have like very great relationships with other venues around town as well. So if we're ever presenting somewhere else, I mean, that fee also helps us, pay for the rental and like some of those other rooms as well. And we get very little pushback from agents on our fee. We get very little pushback from our clientele here. If we do get pushback, we still have options for people to either call in over the phone or stop up here in person to kind of navigate away from the fee. If they want to pay in cash, get a physical ticket, they're more than welcome to, because we do have a little bit of an older audience here that are used to going to like punk shows, used to going to metal shows. They don't want to pay the online fees, and we still do cater to them when we, if we can. But yeah, those fees are keeping it afloat sometimes. And I think of it like, man, there's so many people out there that are scalping our tickets, that are putting them up for just crazy amounts online, that like getting it from straight from the venue and paying that only whatever $2-3 fee is truly like not gonna bust anyone's bank. I really don't think.
Yeah, same. I don't know exactly what our percentage is for that, but I know when we constantly look at it and we try to compare it to similar venues of our capacity and similar venues in our market. And I think from what we've looked at, where our fees are actually a little bit lower than a lot of the venues in our area. So we definitely try to be cognizant with that. We do the same thing. It's less if you get it at the box office. Um, we have unfortunately our town does have a city entertainment tax that gets tacked onto there that makes it look a lot worse than what it is. But yeah, we definitely try to keep those fees reasonable as well for everybody.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. Kind of the recommendation we made in the report, maybe a light recommendation, was there's room to experiment either way, kind of where you're at based on that range. So, thanks for sharing how you guys think about that. Okay, we're gonna jump into marketing here in the marketing section of the report. Again, I'll share a little bit more about what's not on the slide here. So in the report, we call out the marketing email send volume for an average versus top performing venue. And here is where you kind of start to see what you would expect from a top performing venue. They are sending 6x the volume of emails as an average performing venue. Simply, they're doing more marketing. The average email send volume is about 90,000 emails per month for the average, and then the top performing venues are sending almost 600,000 emails per month. So you'd expect to see that. What's stood out to our team as we were evaluating this was the amount of automation that the top performing venues are doing. So they're sending more email, but they're relying on more automation, almost 2x the amount, which these percentages are small, but when you start to compound that over 600,000 emails, that's a lot of work you're taking off of your plate. That's a way to generate more sales without adding more staff. And the power of automation with all things AI is only getting faster and more powerful as we all are adopting that technology. Jason, you previewed this a little bit earlier, and I know you're a big fan of automation from a few conversations we've gotten to have. So first, do you want to share how you're using automation at the castle?
Yeah. I mean, we're using a lot of the campaign features through Opendate. So we've kind of adopted almost everything we can think of with them. So, the basic ones that I think probably everybody uses, like abandoned cart email automations, that sort of thing. But the pre-sale feature, the venue pre-sale, we're really utilizing that, and it's kind of treating it almost as an announce email to folks. The targeting seems to be great. I mentioned the add-on upsell alerts. We do a low inventory automation email. Um, this one's not for sales, but we do a know before you go email that goes out to folks, I think 2 or 3 days before a show where they bought tickets. Um, but the automation stuff, just with our weekly email letter now, with the Just for You stuff that just came out, where they're getting kind of more tailored shows sent to them. It's cut my build time for the weekly e-blast down tremendously. Um, and then other automations within my the weekly, like, so it's, I think the way I have ours structured right now, it's the last three shows that we announced, the next 4 or 5 shows coming up on the calendar, and then 3 shows in the Just for You section that's tailored based on their activity. Um, and I can pretty much just change out the email subject and some wording and some stuff. And instead of it taking me 15, 20 minutes to build an email, it takes me about 45 seconds now. So it saves a ton of time. I mean, I'm sure Rachel's in the same boat as men. Most of everybody on this is, smaller venues, small staffs that wear a lot of hats. So these automation features are huge for us.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I was actually building a video for some enablement earlier this week, and I was expecting to record like a 5 to 10 minute video of an email build, and it literally took 2.5 minutes based on some of those like automations that were built into the email template. So really powerful stuff, and that certainly adds up over time. A quick follow up for you, Jason, that came in via chat on the low inventory email. Who's the audience that receives that?
It's all based on the potential buyers that the segments, the automated segments do in Opendate. So there's, I think, potential buyers and then targeted potential buyers, which the targeted is a smaller group that whatever the algorithm says they're most likely to buy to that show. So that's who those folks are targeted to. So it's not going out to our whole database. That's the other key part about these automations, because we're sending so many emails with these. They're very targeted. As long as Opendate's targeting algorithm is working. So I'm trusting you on that one, Jonathan.
The algorithm gods work in mysterious ways. No, the potential buyers is based on genre, and the targeted potential buyers is genre and artist, and then obviously the fan CRM data being plugged into that as well.
Yeah, we use a different. I have a closeout one that I called it. It's kind of a custom built one using the tools. Like, it sends out to potential buyers at 30 days that haven't bought a ticket, and then again at 10 days, it goes down to the targeted potential buyers if they haven't bought a ticket to a show. So it's, people are getting a lot of emails from us, but they're definitely more targeted. We're not seeing a massive increase in people unsubscribing, and our ticket sales are doing well here the first couple of months of the year. So it's, seems to be working. I mean, I don't think you ever know for sure 100%, but it's definitely a lot of positive signs that it's been great, and it's certainly a lot of time saved.
Yeah, even those venues sending 6x the email volume, we saw that their open rate and click rate was pretty constant with the ones sending less email. I think we're all very fortunate in this industry to have content that people want to engage with and find very cool. And it's a good opportunity to use that to our advantage. Rachel, I know marketing is your world. Maybe before we talk automation, I'm just kind of curious what's working for Grog Shop in your marketing space.
Mm, mean, I saw, so like I was on, I think Threads the other day. So now you've got to be on all of the platforms. But I think I saw like Laura Jane Grace post something like, yeah, it's not enough that venues are just running like a meta ad for us, right? And like I agree and I disagree as well because I've talked a lot about this like in different panels, different discussions like in the last couple of months, but really feels like we've been pushed into just this meta space where like that is the only like self-serve ad buy that we can really do at this moment. So I do love the chat about automation and talking about how that email list is still super important. Loved seeing benchmarks in the report for what people's open rates are looking like because like I think we are really hitting our stride with a lot of that as well. On our list, we don't have automation per se through our ticketer, but we do have 32,000 active subscribers on our email list. And I do see open rates between like 20 and 35%. Some of our
Right.
demographics are less likely to be using their email, right? But the ones that have followed us and follow their pop punk emo bands, things like that, they're opening up all of the emails. So we do have good rates. I have switched to, I know Jason and we mentioned this a little bit before we jumped on here, but we have been using Bands in Town Pro for those automations because I was disappointed that we are not able to do that. We send out a weekly email here to our list, which is like very similarly set up, I think, to it sounds like what the castle is doing with the just announced things going on that week and some targeted stuff for people. But then Bands in Town kind of follows up with a lot of that automation that like we just can't provide right now with TicketWeb. So they send out an emailer, I think 1 month out, 1 week out for you at on sale. And then as a 1 day reminder. And really it's only the people that are like RSVPing or following the artist in your area that is getting those notifications. So we don't feel like we're spamming anyone. We see return on what we've put into that. And I can only imagine that that would also translate over to your own emailer service if you are using automations. Like, don't be afraid of sending out periodic reminders to people. They want to see them, right? But anyways, we obviously do a lot of meta ad buying because it's easy to do. And it does show returns on investment. But more so these days too, if we're getting up to the week of the show or like 2 weeks out and things are struggling a little bit. I mean, I do a lot of outreach to local influencers, doing contesting. I see Deb was suggested a little contesting at the on sale. We definitely do contesting at the end too, reaching out to people to, host a giveaway with us. So maybe somebody who is a part of these different music scenes to get on the camera, talk a little bit about why they are going to the show, and then having everybody share our concert flyer to their story for the next 24 hours or 48 hours so that our reach is much, much more than just if we shared it and did a giveaway from our page. We're like collaborating on Instagram, on Facebook with influencers a lot, as well as, using their audience to even further that reach as well. We're still doing, radio station giveaways, and just things like that. So I would say don't just limit yourself to those meta ads, right? Definitely look at other ways to get out there.
Rachel, is there a channel you mentioned being on all the channels at the top of
Yeah.
that? Is there a channel that you're seeing like trending well or emerging right now that maybe others wouldn't expect to be doing so well?
I don't think so. I think Instagram is still the place that we see the most traction and the place that I can most easily see who is sharing what. It's hard sometimes on other platforms to see like, okay, well, this was retweeted or this was shared, but like who shared it? How many, those people probably don't have as many followers on some of these smaller sites, Blue Sky or even X these days. So probably still Instagram is my number one.
Jason, what about you? I know we talked email and automation. Are there any other channels performing extremely well for the castle?
I mean, Meta is still is still number one. Um, I think our Instagram is definitely getting more traction. But oddly enough, Facebook is still, still see the most views on our posts from Facebook, even as the Facebook user ages. We kind of have a little bit older demographic on a lot of shows too, that are still on Facebook. So um, those are our main two. We do a little bit on YouTube and TikTok as far as posting some shorts and stuff like that, but it's getting less and less. I mean, I think there's there's so many platforms out there. There's no way you can hit them all. Um, and a lot of them you're only hitting a small amount of people, especially in a market like ours. Maybe in more of a major market, it would make more sense to utilize Reddit and Substacks and all that kind of stuff. But at a market our size, it's just it's best to keep your time and money invested in the ones where people are at. And I mean, let's just face it, everybody has a Facebook or in Instagram profile, so it's going to be the easiest to make work for you.
Not broke, don't fix it. Certainly when it comes to marketing. Okay, let's talk fan spin for just a second. So I'm gonna share a slide here of some data and talk about different data. I hope I don't confuse anybody, but this is some genre data that's from our database. But we also have venues who integrate with their POS, and we looked at that data. And the statistic I actually want to talk about with the two of you is kind of bar trends. And I know this isn't maybe your exact realm, but I think we're all familiar with the decrease in or the decrease in alcohol sales, the increase in NA beverages. We saw almost a 400% increase in NA beverages being sold last year. What's fascinating about that data is from the same data, the per head at bar spend was actually up by just 9%. So it stayed flat or went up slightly. So despite the decrease in alcohol sales, these venues were finding creative ways to keep the per head spend at the bar. Just very broadly, and this is kind of the quickest topic we'll hit here, but I'm curious what each of you are seeing in your venues in terms of bar trends and maybe any advice for anybody on this webinar heading into 2026. Rachel, why don't I start with you this time?
Well, I did think that was funny that that slides, obviously punk tick show tickets are cheap, right? But those are the people that are spending all the money at the bar, right? So, I think I don't know, the biggest thing that we can do, there's two things. I think when we're booking and we're considering what our shows are going to look like for the month, we are trying to book stuff that will have some drinkers, you know what I mean? And also including that, in our offers and when we're setting the ticket price. So even if the punk shows are not bringing in as much ticket revenue, they are the ones that are drinking a lot at the bar. The country people are usually drinking a lot at the bar. If it's the right type, little rock and roll, little grittiness to them. So, I think we're prioritizing shows that we know are going to do good bar sales because we need to keep being aggressive there. I also think that obviously education of your bartenders makes a big deal. We have liquor reps that we work with really closely to provide, like I said, some of those add-ons when we do any sort of special drink specials for different shows, which I know everyone I'm sure is doing. I hope you're doing them, but really trying to prioritize the certain brands that we want to work with and get our customers more accustomed to ordering here because that will come back to us with liquor spend as well, if we're doing a good job selling those brands. But we can't get too crafty here. We're very much like shot and beer kind of bar. So I think it's a mix of really leaning into the shows we know that there will be drinkers, and then also leaning into the brands that we work well with, that we want to do a little bit more education on with our clients as well as our bartenders so that they feel comfortable talking to people about it, serving those drinks. Man, Ohio has been going crazy with the THC stuff. They like will let us have it and then they'll take it away, and they'll let us have it and they'll take it away. So that's been really inconsistent with whether or not we can even offer those. Because we will buy a bunch of them and then not be able to sell them. And that's great that they're just sitting there now and we wasted a bunch of money on them.
Ugh.
So I think we're, unfortunately for at the moment, we're really just, yeah, trying to focus on, a few brands and a few key partnerships to really like get a little bit more money coming in at the bar, either through um sponsorships, liquor up spends, and then also just like getting people comfortable ordering certain things.
Thanks, Rachel. Jason, what are you seeing at the bar in the castle?
Um, I mean, it's gone down just like everywhere. We're kind of the same with what Rachel's talking about. Our active rock shows still drink very well. Those tend to be our best selling shows too. So we do have, at times lean a little heavy on those shows. Country shows are very good drinkers, punk rock shows, that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, there's definitely been a downturn. One thing that we've kind of noticed, you know, the NA offerings, it, the folks not drinking, it's not a money thing, it's just a
Right.
lifestyle thing. So what we've noticed, and I do a small amount of touring also, and I've kind of noticed this in venues around the country where I've been at. Um, the price levels are the same.
Right.
They'll pay the same amount for a liquid death that they will for a Budweiser. For the most part. So which I think is a good thing, and it's just getting over the hurdle of the mental hurdle of, oh, we have to sell these people beer, not Red Bull. Although they'll pay the same amount or close to it. So it's as long as you can price it to where the margins are similar. Um, I don't think it's something to really be too frightened about. You just have to be creative with what you offer, and it's got to be something, the younger generation that's not drinking. It's more of, like we said, it's more of a health thing. So you got to offer them something better than just, Pepsi or Coke or RC products, right? That have a bunch of sugar in it. You got to give them something that's you know gives them the perception that they're being healthier. Um, the THC drinks, yeah. I mean, if you can do it, do it. People are definitely embracing those. We bounced around doing coffee here first,
Hmm.
at some things. We've definitely stepped up the NA beer options, um, which people have liked. So yeah, I mean it's adapting to the times, right? It'll come and go, and 5 years down the line, people will think we're all crazy for having NA drinks, and they just want to, pound as many Budweisers as they possibly can because somebody on a TV show did it. So it is what it. We had a show last week where I had a bunch of people, the country, or 2 weeks ago, a country show, and people were asking for Coors Banquet. I'm like, they just thought maybe they just all watched Yellowstone too much, and now they want to drink Coors Banquet.
It's all cyclical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Deb, I see your question about the spin. The one that I referenced earlier was just over $19. Was they had, increased by 9% year over year despite the alcohol sales being down. That same venue, they talked about dirty sodas. They've been using dirty sodas as a kind of adjacent to the NA beverages, and um same thing you mentioned, Jason. Like the margin is just as good, if not better, on some of those because people are willing to pay the same price for a dirty soda or a mocktail that they are a cocktail. And so it's just being very intentional with your pricing strategy there. So thank you both for sharing that behind the scenes. All right, I'm gonna hit you with a final question for the group as we head into 2026. What's the biggest focus for that each of you think venues should be focused on as we head into 2026 and making sure it is set up for success? Jason, I'm gonna put you on the seat first.
Um, I think it's I've been in past conversations over the last couple of months about this, and I think people are starting to value um, you know the experiences a lot more than just quantity of shows. So I think it's being intentional in our booking process, not just trying to slam in the same shows over and over again. I think it's trying to be intentional and finding those new events that you could do, which we started doing a little bit last year, maybe non-traditional concerts, or you know, adding some comedy into things, or something that's different than maybe what your venue does all the time. And we saw some success with that last year. We did some of the candlelight concert things,
Hmm.
and those did really well. We did like this Edgar Allan Poe show that I think it sold out like 3 shows or 4 shows or something like that. So, trying to find some alternative programming, or what we just hit on with the NA beverage and those kind of things. I think finding those revenue streams, that make up for some of the downturn stuff, I think is key. But it's not just because of the revenue streams either. It's adapting to what the ticket buyer wants, right? You don't want to just be. I think just the stat. I think everybody's kind of bored with just the status quo, right? We gotta find a way to give them a better experience when they're in the building, and they'll come back more often. That's kind of been our focus, is what we can do a little differently to, now that we're going into 16th year here, so it's like we want to keep the experience fresh as much as you can in the same 4 walls.
Love that. Rachel, what should venues focus on here in 2026?
Yeah. Well, I loved what you had to say, Jason, about trying out some different stuff as well that maybe you haven't done before. I feel like we're doing more comedy now than we used to do as well. And we've landed some really, really good comedy shows. And I think some of that comes from like looking at other people and other markets around us and similar to us that have done really well and saying, what can we learn from them and like reaching out to them and networking with them a little bit more. So, anyways, just love that idea, right? I think like we're gonna see a huge uptick in like pre-sale efforts in 2026. I've already seen agents trying to really get on us about, you know what I mean, posting the pre-sales, making a big deal out of the pre-sales, either setting ticket limits on pre-sales, which we need to do sometimes because it will blow out, or just even, kind of trying to create that illusion, you know what I mean, that there's like a limited number for the pre-sales. People have been trying to also like batch that in with their sometimes, if you're doing like memberships or things like that, the pre-sales are featuring a little bit more prominently in that as well. Any way that we can get, we're using pre-sale signups on our website right now to get more emails from people. But I think we're going to see like a big uptick with people using like Seated and all of these other like pre-sale sites, Spotify as well. So I would just say, if you can, try to keep all of that on your own ticketing platform or through your own ticketing platform because we're missing out again on organizer fees when it is totally ticketed through somebody else, as well as like some data points that you really are probably missing when you're trying to take it somewhere else. So, making people confident that you're going to do a good job with the pre-sales and trying to figure out how to get some of that momentum for shows that might not necessarily blow out right away, right? During the pre-sale. How do we duplicate that for these really in demand shows and then some of these more up and coming artists. So that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
Love that. Thanks for sharing, Rachel. Okay, we have a few buzzer beater questions here. I'm going to bounce around. If we don't get to them, feel free to follow up with us or our team. Uh, this comes from Zach. Curious on average how successful papering efforts are and how much they're spending on site on average. Either of you care to answer that one?
Uh, Papering's always tricky. I think you know, and it's hard to maybe know exactly what they're spending unless you have some sort of connection between your ticketing and your bar POS. But I think with the memberships that are coming out with Opendate, I think you can be able to utilize that a little bit better. Um, so yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing. I will echo what Rachel's saying about the pre-sales though. That's something that we're really pushing, and even when we're doing a venue pre-sale for pretty much every show at this point, just because of the email automations. And I mean, the open rates you spoke about open rates, Rachel. Our open rate on our pre-sale email is over 50%. So
Wow.
it's one of our highest converting email automations too. So it's huge. Yeah, pre-sales and data collection. I also talked about this too. I think we spoke about this when we were in Miami, Jonathan, that the offsite pre-sales, like make sure you're asking for the data from those offsite, like do a data share with them. Um, I mean, most of them send you the data anyway because you have to know who's buying tickets, but get those people's emails if at all possible because it's data that you just need. And I think in this day and age, the data capture is so important. So
We are papering shows. I do not have like a direct, I'm not really sure how that is converting. But for things like tonight, we have Nuevo Testamento, and I'm pretty sure we needed to get to like about 200 paid to break even. I papered this show a lot, like with just like ticket giveaways with the local influencers through Instagram. So it wasn't necessarily like I'm just leaving tickets somewhere for people to find, but we did a lot of physical ticket giveaways around the city as well. So I probably had at least like 30 freebies out there. Didn't hurt our actual sales at all. I don't believe. And I'm sure when they come tonight, it's a very dancey Italio disco show. I'm sure they're going to be drinking at the bar. So if I can get 30 more people in here drinking at the bar, you know what I mean? That's just more money in our pocket. And we already knew that we were going to make the guarantee on that one. So I still use it, but I try to use it strategically.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. Thanks to both of you for joining today's webinar. If anyone wants to dig into the rest of the data in the benchmark report, here is your QR code for that. If you are interested in actually seeing the product, I know Jason mentioned how some of the automations they're using. We're also previewing a big new feature release this Friday. Scan that QR code and you can join our live product demo this Friday. And I believe there was a question too about continuing to learn. We would love to have all of you join us for our next Make More Money webinar, which will be in March. We run these monthly. We're going to be talking about the secondary market. I will drop all of these links in the chat right now. To everybody who joined us, thanks for joining. We will be sending out the recording. We hope that you all enjoyed it. And again, Jason, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody go check out the Grog Shop, go check out the Castle Theater, and reach out if you have any questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.